So here we have the menu screen. And as you can see, we have Gods of Destruction mode, which is story mode where you can play either as Godzilla, doing where it's considered called Go Ashore, and you pretty much make him grow in size by destroying buildings, tanks, the army pretty much, fighting kaijus, and taking down the main objective, which is generators. Then you have Invade, where you invade pretty much other kaijus as a kaiju. So you can play as Ghidorah, Mothra, for God's sakes, anyone. Defend, you can play as an ally kaiju. And the options are kind of limited, but you have Type 3 Kiryu, Super Mecha Godzilla, Mecha King Ghidorah, Mothra Larva, Mothra, and so on. Invade, you have more of a variety. You have Batra, Space Godzilla, Burning Godzilla if you played far enough in the game, Gigan, Godzilla 2014, which is kind of a nice feature. Too bad the movie was pretty bad. Who's there? It's me. I don't know. I'm from Godzilla! Kick-Ass? No! God fucking damn it! Why does everyone say that? But yeah, you have more of an option for Invade. But you also get less resources and stuff, which I'll get to later. Next you have King of Kaiju mode, which is pretty much you fight 5 waves of 5 different kaiju, and you're graded or rated on your time limit, or your time pretty much for completing all 5 waves. But here you can play as pretty much any unlockable monster that you unlock in the game. Good, bad, whichever one. Next is Versus mode, which is, to be honest, the most disappointing thing about the game in my opinion. Versus mode is only online. You use the network to battle against other players around the world. Usually they have crappy connection. You either have 1v1 or 1 versus 1, which just ends up being 2v1. Whoever looks the strongest, they get double teamed. And then after that is Evolution mode, which is actually a skill-based thing. It allows you to level up any of the kaijus, or actually unlock them if you haven't already. Because to unlock kaijus in this game, pretty much all you have to do is encounter them in either one of the 3 of the story modes, and then defeat them, and they usually drop some kind of cell, like one of their cells. And it only takes one. Once you've unlocked them, then they unlock a skill tree for their attacks to increase their attack damage, or the quickness of their attack, or the recharge speed of their special meter. Or just unlock figures for the next mode that I'm going to go into, which is Diorama mode. Diorama mode is pretty much where you set up a little scene, like nothing actually happens, but you set up figures, and you choose your landscape and just decide how you want your monsters to be laid out. It's kind of cool, but I'd rather just maybe set up a scenario of a fight scene and have it actually play out. Would have been cool. I mean, I know it's a lot to ask for, but keep in mind this game is $60. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think it's only worth $40. But yeah, that's pretty much the sum up of Diorama mode. Just place figures, set up scenes, and take a picture, or just save it. And that's pretty much it for the type of modes there are. After that you have his Kaiju Guide. Kaiju Guide is pretty much the history of almost every monster or kaiju, robot, one of Earth's defenses, whatever Godzilla's fought. Almost all of them. And it's a pretty good amount of description. Usually 3 paragraphs full, and then you have their height, their tail length, even their tail length, their weight, and where they appeared. So that's pretty cool in my book. That's a nice little feature. Because hey, maybe you're not a big fan of Godzilla, but something looks cool, you want to look up which kaiju that was and see the movie he appeared in. So for Godzilla story mode, the objective is pretty much destroy all the generators. No matter which mission you choose, it's destroy the generators. Luckily, there are kaiju invasions, so monsters will appear, which in my book saves the game's missions. Otherwise, I would have been bored out of my mind. But the kaiju fights are actually kind of good once you learn how to fight. But in Godzilla's, like I said, you just continuously destroy generators, and then deciding on which path you want to take, because there's different options, leads to a possibility of a leadership change, which changes like the government's leader, and he can either be stronger in will and like put up more army defenses and stuff, or be passive and just let you do what you have to do because he believes once you're done you'll be on your way, like a dog or something. My main problem with the story mode is just, like I said, it's just destroy generator by taking pictures on each level, because there's 4 certain areas on each level where you can see on the map, and you pretty much take a picture or record footage, as they say, of Godzilla to help create this weapon of defense against Godzilla for the end of the game. So if you take all the pictures on the thread, it might lead to unlocking the last section of the game, but if you miss like one, I believe it doesn't give it to you, which is kind of alright. I mean, it was like a little bit of a drag having to walk back, like, oh, I forgot to take a picture of Godzilla, let me walk all the way back. Godzilla walks very slow. Also, he has side objectives where there's small little things like destroy 9 patrol cars, destroy 11 helicopters, stuff like that. There are some missions where you have to destroy the generators in a set amount of time before they shut them down to conserve the energy, and you just destroy a pile of metal. But those missions are still not that. Other than that, you have the kaiju invasion mode where you invade as a kaiju, play as any of the ones that you've unlocked, which is kind of fun. Some kaijus are pretty interesting to play as, I believe. The only ones I've played as is Biollante and Type 3 Kiryu. And Biollante was actually pretty cool, but it's still the same concept. Destroy the generators. And occasionally you'll get invaded, not necessarily by Godzilla, but by other kaijus. So, I mean, it's fun to play as other kaijus, because at least you're not stuck just playing as Godzilla. And then after that you have the join the ally kaiju, where you play as one of the human defense ones, which was a little bit of a change of the pace, but same concept, except here the opposite now. You're defending the generator and all the buildings. Oh, that's what I forgot to mention. Main story, you do get bigger and a bonus base, whatever that is. I never found out what that is. A bonus base if you destroy 100% of the city in Godzilla story. So that's kind of cool, I guess. Honestly, it's literally sometimes like a crane, like a giant crane that's like in the corner or something that you miss, and you're like, well, I don't see any more buildings, what did I miss? It takes you like 5 minutes to finally find this crane and you get it. So kind of annoying, but at least it's a little another bonus to do while destroying generators. But defend is literally, like I said, you defend the generator, and pretty much you want to not let the kaiju that you're fighting against destroy too much of the city. I'm not really into defending things, so this was my least favorite of the story modes. I mean, you can destroy buildings pretty easily, because sometimes they'll start you in the middle of like a city, and you have to at least move, and just moving destroy city or a building. So it was not my forte, but it's at least it's another story mode. So I'm gonna tell you this right now. A lot of people are shitting all over this game for this exact reason. I mean, a lot of them are agreeing with me with the whole story mode just being generator after generator, but a lot of people are complaining about the controls and what they think it's lacking. One of the ways to take down air units is triangle. It's your heavy attack. Because it usually swings upwards, people are missing that, and that's your best way. Noted, it is hard to land the hit. It takes a while, but once you get used to it, it's not very difficult. It just becomes natural. One of the gripes that I've heard of this game. For those people complaining about his movement speed, you literally just charge in this game. Any way you want to go. And I mean, it also does a little bit of damage, and it gives you some kind of armor for when you charge into an enemy kaiju. It doesn't defend you that much. Like if they do a couple heavy attacks, they'll knock you out of it. But it still gets you around in a decent amount of speed, and it destroys nearby buildings, stuff like that. So it's kind of useful. Your R2, which again, most people don't understand how to use this. It's like your counter. Or it gives you a good amount of shield, so you can take hits and not be stunned. And then you also unleash like a good attack, where it gets people off of you or destroys, like in Godzilla's case, he has like a aroma beam, where he unleashes like an explosion within, and he destroys helicopters nearby, tanks nearby. It counters any enemy's attacks and then sends them flying. It's a good thing to use. But it does take up your temperature meter, so you can't use your beam attack unless it recharges. But I mean, it's a useful feature. It counters things that sometimes you need to. I want people to actually experience the game for a good amount of time before they complain. Like at least 2 days. Play the game for 2 days. I mean, by then you should have figured this kind of stuff out. But I see people just opening the box, putting the game in, and then complaining. Don't do that. Get used to the controls, get used to the game itself, and then you'll figure out what they're going for. The last mechanic that people aren't understanding is the roar. Every creature in the game has the roar. So you pretty much press L1, R1 at the same time, unleash a roar that acts like a block. Kind of a block. But it pretty much gives you armor for a good amount of time, so you can take punches. So roar is you gain armor to take some hits and stuff like that. But then it can also be used offensively. So I'm going to use Godzilla again as an example. You roar, and then as soon as you're in your roar, you use your beam attack, and you pretty much gain damage. It's a stronger beam. I mean, that's pretty cool. Not a lot of people know that for some reason. Kaiju mode is kind of fun just to play quick battles against other kaijus as whichever kaiju you want to fight at, and you're judged based off the time it took to complete each round. Versus mode, like I said, is the mode that really disappointed. This mode is network only, meaning no local multiplayer. It could have been done. It could have been done, but they didn't do it for some reason. 1v1 or 1 or 3 free-for-all, where it just usually, like I said, leads to 2v1 until that person dies, and then they kind of go on things. And then whoever's weaker usually loses. Evolution mode, again, quick summary. You use materials that you get from story mode to either unlock certain kaijus that you didn't have, or level up attacks and get figures for diorama mode. In diorama mode, you pretty much play with figures and make scenes and take pictures, or just leave it. Again, it's alright. It's nothing special. Last but not least, you have the kaiju guide, where you can learn about almost all kaijus Godzilla has encountered, even if they're not in the game. You get a good amount of info. Graphics are decent, not over the top, but I felt like they accomplished what they were going for. People need to understand, or see in this perspective, I guess, based off the effects and like the lighting on most levels, they tried making it familiar to like the old school effects from the old school movies and the old school like explosions and stuff like that, where it flashes inside the building where you can see it through the windows, and then it just like has sparks and stuff when it explodes. I don't know, it reminded me of the old school movies, so I kind of enjoyed it. That's why I don't think this game should be so heavily judged on graphics. I felt the gameplay was decent, but lacked depth and creativity, but like I said, it was saved from being boring or unplayable with the random encounters and monster fights. Because sometimes on some of the levels you don't know which kaiju is going to encounter you. It's random. And when it's one that you've never seen before, if you're not that big of a fan and you only know a little bit, or if it's one that you haven't unlocked yet, you kind of get excited, like, yeah, I'll take you down so I can unlock you. Pretty fun. Multiplayer, I don't like it. Functionality, it works well with a few frame drops, and it's only when like you blow up 7 buildings that are surrounding you with an explosion, unlaunching a bunch of attacks. I've never had it freeze on me. I've never had frame rate drop be an actual problem. The game shines with its nostalgia and the fact that it's monsters and giant robots fighting. So my conclusion of the game is I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. But once it drops $40, it'd be I'd say an 8. 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed the game. I'm still playing it even though I've unlocked just about all the kaijus. I beat the story mode. I'm going different paths now. It's still enjoyable, but all games have a certain price that they're worth. So, like I said, my conclusion, 6 out of 10 for the price of $60. So it's just slightly above average because I'm sort of a fan of Godzilla and just a fan in general for the concept of giant monsters fighting giant robots or other giant monsters. It's just awesome to me. So, everyone has the right to their opinion, but that's mine. Remember, as always, no game is for everybody.